So this is my friend Shelby, one little witch. And Shelby, would you do me a favor and just tell everyone a little bit about you and the type of witchcraft and all of that, just so that people know who you are.
Hmm, I'm always so I'm always so shy about it. I think I was born into witchcraft. My mother was a Gardnerian witch. That Raymond Buckland had a actually moved his museum of witchcraft here at one point and in New Hampshire. And my mother attended his classes and things. And I was a small child, and there was a group of us, and that's my foundation. They weren't always
Yes.
the best example. They weren't always the best example of how I feel we should behave, which I strive to be. Like my way is just one little witch's ways, and I try to share how I do things in a neutral way so that people can work from there, work their own magic, because I believe you are the magic. you know, I don't know what else
Absolutely.
you want to do.
No,
And
that's
I'm super
it.
creative, and I write a lot of poetry that I drop with my spells on there, but they're really just a starting point for people um to to expand on their own, to expand on
Yes.
their own. But all this whole one way baloney is, we're doomed to repeat ourselves if we can't accept all practitioners with all differences and stop the drama. So,
That's and one of the things that both Shelby and I have been seeing is, especially on TikTok, a lot of people like to take some power off the other witches by claiming their work is not right or what they're doing is wrong. And I think that that's a misdemeanor. We are supposed to be supporting each other, loving each other, caring about each other, and learning from each other. So, maybe it's just best to listen instead of putting other people down and just hear what they have to say or why they think that, or like I mix a lot of my work with my native traditions. So does that make me wrong? Should I throw it all in the garbage because I'm half breed? No, you have to be who you are, and I'm a witch no matter which way I look at it, and I add into my ways my shamanic traditions. So and in my way it's very powerful, and in your way, I mean, you've got Raymond Buckland work behind you, but then again you also got them. My wand is bigger than your wand, which
oh
is
yeah, they
as
were terrible because they did a lot of great work in the 70s. They are actually some of the groundbreakers for when Roe versus Wade was first legalized and things like that, which we've now seen removed. That homeless shelters, things like that. The 70s where it looked a lot like what our world looks like today, very volatile and falling apart. And the same thing happened with what created satanic panic because of the growth of the Wiccan path. Wiccan traditionally in that format is very structured, but as a group, though, they still there was a competitiveness, and there was a hmm, my way is better than yours, my candles are better yours kind of thing that really in the end tore them all apart, and it lives were ruined. I never saw my friends again, and it was a good. I a lot of my perception is from that of a child. We talked about that the other night, but um, well, I feel like I witness it every day on here with this tearing each other apart. You have a lot of young practitioners on here that are good in their craft and maybe overstepped, and then others, it's like they never made a mistake, and everybody's going to trash each other. And people seem to love watching a train wreck. We have to move past this type of thinking. That's not the heart of a witch, my mother would say. It is not.
that's right.
Everybody fucks up and whatever. So here, and actually, if we speak with practitioners that aren't on here, you know, um, you mentioned Lori Cabot earlier. I grew up with her daughter Penny, and
Oh, I,
if they're not on this app, yeah, New England is small, but if what my point is, if they're not on this app, they're not really aware of that behavior
yeah.
necessarily. Like, so I guess I would also put that message out there. A lot of what you're seeing in the competitiveness and stuff like that is a social media app. It is not how it should be and how it is in a lot of people's lives. One of the reasons
Lori
why I stay so
Cabot,
quiet. You don't want to get into it. You don't want to get into the hoopla.
Lori Cabot actually has a group specifically for dealing with this crap.
Yeah, the
And I
temple is
thought,
beautiful. I live about an hour from where they are. They're in Drake, Mass, and I was here last year, and I went to Soam there. It's the Hermetic Temple is her coven and where
yeah,
she teaches.
at the
And
Kent
Lori, yeah,
Temple.
Lori's 88. She just turned 88.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
yeah,
And for those
she's
of
really
you that
tall.
don't know that name, Lori Cabot is like America's first witch who really came out in the 70s and really late. There were a few groundbreakers and things like that, but she was publicly a woman witch on Oprah, and she got a lot of publicity, and her books are amazing.
Yes, they are. And did you know that the police in that area actually have on their shoulder, you know how they have their badge? It's a
Yeah,
witch on a broom.
witch on their broomstick. Yeah.
Salem.
Now
In
we've
Salem.
looked for a place around here to bed and breakfast. I think that would be a neat experience because, well, going down there right now is really hard. You have to be, it's really big. I mean, it's going to Salem, Massachusetts, which a lot of people don't understand. The witch trials actually took place right outside of, it's not really in Salem, it was in Drake, Massachusetts, and what remains are left and things, which is like a little town. It at one point was all the same, but
Yeah, I
it's
went there. You know, they say those people that were killed as witches were not actually witches at all.
yeah,
And you know, that makes sense. That
yeah,
makes
and
sense
that's
because you know I think Laurie Cabot she kind of opened up. I would say she opened it up to all of us to finally step out and step up.
some of the structures she created. She has a crystal wheel that's 700 feet above Salem that they do a meditation for. You can follow it on the Hermetic Temple's Facebook page. They usually go live every Thursday night. That's her day, Jupiter Day. And it's a different color every week with an excellent meditation, and we all transport there. It Anybody can join too. So
Oh,
it's
really?
pretty neat. So her and her, I believe it was called the Coven of the Black Doves in the 70s. They erected this crystal wheel that is above Salem, Massachusetts. And yes, we go there for solace and weekly. It's every Thursday. hmm It's a neat thing.
Wow, I didn't
She was a
know.
groundbreaker. She was a groundbreaker, like you and I are, in coming out and displaying these ways and creating these ways. You know,
Yeah.
creating the now old way, but at that time it was very new.
Well, you know, you mentioned something about Wicca, and I'd like to point out something and the differences between Wicca and the Cabots and traditional witches and stuff. Um, One of the reasons why I created the White Wolf Coven is to give people an opportunity to get the basics, the foundation of their witchcraft clear and solid before they go out and make a decision as to which group they want to coven with long term, you know, or
Yeah,
which genre they really want to align with. I mean, not everybody aligns well with, let's say, the Wiccan tradition. The Wiccan tradition's only established since the 50s, 1950, and um, it's a Garderian practice, basically.
and just like all practices, the people the history and in any religious text, right? The holes have been shot in according to the accuracy of what they created there. So someone created that,
Yeah.
even at that time. And he did travel around and he did collect information and and then I'm pretty sure he put his into it and came up with this. But then, and I'm not saying that it isn't valid. I'm saying that I would suggest to anyone that as you move forward, we need to recognize that no one knows what the original anything is, but
Yeah,
your own original magic and your own original path is coded within you. It's
that's right.
within you. So something might make sense or really resonate with you where it's not your path. That's the best way. What you're doing here is great. These guys don't realize how valuable this TikTok is that you're doing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that I think, you know, more of us need to come together and allow for our witchcraft ways not to be owned, let's say, by one particular
Uh,
set of rules. Because
no.
this, you know, a lot of us became witches because we didn't follow the rules. So then for me, it was like, how could I possibly join a coven that had so many rules? I mean, I might
Well,
as well be a Christian.
like
That's what happened to me.
that's the truth. A covenant would have structure,
Yeah.
which is definitely right for some, and maybe it's a starting point. I think, have you ever seen Thorn Mooney on here?
Yes.
She is she is a high priestess of one, and they definitely have modernized it, and they are and very supportive of the differences within it, and it's really refreshing to see. So they have their, their sabbats and their schedule and their things like that, but you can practice your magic outside of the scope of
And
that.
that's
And
what I mean by foundational
yeah,
teachings, which is what I offer here. And what I think is important is that you have your foundations of, what um, what it means to be a woman or man who works in witchcraft of the nature ways, of the old ways.
well, look at what you're providing them, though. I mean, in the beginning, there was a comment that they didn't know it was Witches New Year, and actually, that is part of the old ways. This last few days of October is the last turn of this wheel of the year. That's how
Yeah,
our ancestors would have done it. They didn't have the Gregorian calendar. They did not know that it was October 31st. It's from sundown October 31st until um
the second of November.
yeah, yeah, till sun up of no the 2nd of November. But it's
Yeah,
the astrological center point between the fall equinox and the winter solstice. That
yeah.
our crossworders days were always the biggest parties, I can tell you. That right
Well,
now,
that
then they
elevate.
partied they
I've had.
partied in
Sorry,
it's okay.
I created something called Pagan Fest when I was in Ontario, and we had 40 festivals. And what we did was we celebrated the cross quarters of the grand Sabbats. So,
They
which
were,
would
yeah,
be,
grand Sabbath. That's how what they were always the biggest party. It's not
yeah,
the equinoxes or the solstice, it's the cross quarters are the biggest party.
yeah,
Which is
and
interesting because now a lot of people don't know, for instance, that they celebrate Groundhog Day, for instance, and they don't recognize that that's a fire festival.
and it's called
So many things
oh,
have been commercialized and overlapped, but that was a really big, Imbolc is a really big fire festival.
and it's a hard
And
festival to have in Ontario because it's freaking freezing there. In fact, it
oh,
was the very festival I let go. We did that festival for 4 or 5 years in a row, and I was like, I can't do this because everybody ended up in my house. It was just too big, and people don't want to be outside and freeze their buns off for
it's
that
the
length of
coldest year. Yeah, it gets below. It's averaged below zero February. That somehow the groundhog took over.
time. Yeah, but we had a lot of fun with that one. But we ended up my birthday is August 1st, so that's Lunasa or Lammas. Can That's what people call that, Lammas or
I always
Lunasa.
refer to it as Lunasa, but mostly Lammas.
Yeah. Lammas is a Christian term, though, so I had a harder time using that word, so I didn't like using it. But the other festival that we did was Beltane, and Beltane is the May 1st and the Maypole celebrations and the welcoming of spring, of the kind of like the new year, the beginning of the new year again, right? It was like a second new year that we got to celebrate. But my very favorite, absolute favorite Sabbath is this one coming right now.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's after I quit the job, I went to my son's house, and the colors here first I was in the South for 5 years, so but it is like so powerful and magical here right now. Oh my gosh. I was able to sit next to the river with the reds and the purples, and it's going to rain tomorrow, so today would be considered peak color, and they just glimmered and the leaves blew, and the songbirds are thick here right now too. They're migrating. I mean,
I
I'm just
think,
listening. My favorite
right.
always has been.
You know how I see the trees and all the colors of the leaves changing? It's almost like they're grand, uh,
And
like they're hurrah, their grand hurrah as they leave. And they're saying, okay, all the flowers had your attention. All of the things on the ground had your attention. Now it's our turn. And then they turn all these beautiful, brilliant colors of yellows and purples and reds and oranges. And we cannot help ourselves but look up and to
I
participate and honor it.
actually, let's talk about that right now. So the leaves are coming down, and what are some of the other things that we can collect for our practices in your area, wherever you live? Is the magic is how I work my magic. So have found a few acorns. I didn't take too many because there weren't a lot this year. You know, how on my last video that I posted today, there were several people that asked me about the collection process. I collected a thorn and I bound it with hair. But my point is, how do you do that? Are you when in you are you do you collect leaves maybe or mushroom spores or bark or do you press colored leaves or yeah, what do you do here for the in
Uh,
your environment to bring things in for your practice for that soem new year working?
well, I actually bring a lot of it into my food.
Yeah. And
I embody it. I see myself embodying it. I bring in the medicines and I get the tinctures ready early, a little bit earlier. So this is the time when I would process the tinctures. This is the time when I would do preserves. This is the time when I have my celebrations, ancestors feast. That's what I call it. Not so much Thanksgiving, but ancestors feasts. This is the time when I honor all my deities and gods and goddesses, and I may bring in leaves. It depends on if I want to celebrate by decorating or not. But
so
I
when you collect them, are you speaking over the spirit of the
always,
tree, or are you
always,
in? Because we're hearing these very basic questions that we in our practice we take for granted because we just do it habitually.
right? You're
So you
right, Shelby. That's
rightfully say
right.
thank you. I've had several questions today about what do you do when you collect it, and I'm thinking, you're asking me about my ethics, I would assume, on how
Yes.
I collect that, you know. So
Everything
yes,
I collect,
I
I
will
speak.
gauge my collecting process on how much is available because the
Yeah,
animals need, like the acorns, for instance,
yeah,
and then if I want to maybe later in the year have that bright orange color from the leaf, which contains
yeah.
the seed of the tree, we might use it in that way, things like that. I've got right now, I've collected just today, bittersweet berries, rose hips, um, where I'm in New Hampshire. They're just right in full. We had a 70-degree day yesterday, so I just know when to. Then those I would both use in magic and for medicinal reasons. Rose hips are high vitamin C,
Yeah. This is a
so
good
I
time
would
to collect too.
bring them
Right.
into
And I
the.
think in gratitude, some people mention putting coins and candies down for the crows. The same thing, same kind of idea when you're choosing to take something from nature. In my native traditions, we put tobacco down and we say we're grateful. We say thank you with tobacco. And we're always mindful never to pick the grandmother plant. That would be the eldest. Never pick the elder, and always leave enough for others. And that's a really important thing, no matter what you're picking, except, of course, when you're doing your garden. When you're doing your garden, you're going to
That's
have
different.
things that
Oh, I
are
can't hear you.
donated to the slugs and to the mice and to the rats and the birds. Things get donated whether you like it or not. So we can just be grateful for that. But always when picking, another thing that I do is I wear skirts, I wear dresses whenever I'm doing this kind of work. And part of it has to do with staying connected to the earth. I like to be barefoot if I can be, and I like to wear skirts. That's my way, though. Everybody has a different way. And you have to
I like
honor what
that.
speaks
I
to
like
you. But for
that.
me,
You're right. I'm always wearing moccasins. Yeah, I understand that. And I veil my head too, so that I just feel like my connection and at that time is just me and the plant. But the other thing that I
and
grab a lot this time of year are raspberry thorn branches. I use them for a variety of reasons throughout the year. I
that
just,
sounds a little painful, Shelby. That sounds a little painful.
yeah, no, yeah.
A little bit.
You never know when you're going to need a thorn. You don't want to have to go digging around in the snow. I
Yeah.
do. I'm really OCD about it. I'll make sure I'll pick up the ones on the ground and separate them into piles, little twigs that have three thorns. Four, yeah.
What what might you use them for?
I reposted a video today that I just did a binding spell on with a piece of my hair and a piece of string, and I had the 7 points on there. Each represented something different that I was tying up. It's hanging in the tree outside.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As a matter
that's very general, but yeah.
No, exactly. This is a really good time for people to also redo any kind of protection spells or protection bags, things like that at this time, because this is the darkest time of the year as we're approaching it. So if this is a good time for you, if you've been feeling any negativity or any kind of difficulty, this is a really good time for you to create a nice protection bag of herbs and thorns.
and
And
to gather those items that you can use throughout the winter to get you through this
that's,
dark part of it. You
that's
need
right.
the heavy protection right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a really good time. I always find that the dark time is the best time to learn, and the best time to write, and the best time to dream, and those
Yeah,
things. Oh my! I'd
we
like to
start getting quiet.
show you this. I have my familiars, and not all
Okay.
your animals are familiars, by the way, but these two are my familiars. That's Merlin,
Hi, Merlin.
Rocky, and there's Rocky. Merlin and Rocky, they're both my familiars. And whenever I'm doing any kind of work, they always like to come, all the time.
Yeah, I want to be right out there when we're doing it. I know it's great.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, this is a good time for redoing your protection. It's also a good time to have fires, like campfires or sacred fires, and to burn things that I've done the work all year round. This is a time for me to I'll have a nice big fire, and I'll put any kind of herbal bundle that I've had, let's say, placed above a door, that has been used to keep negative energy from coming at me. I will switch it out and I'll burn it and I'll put a new one out
yeah.
at this year.
And that's a great way when people are asking the question what we do with our spell work. What we're doing here is a complete recycle. It's gathered, it's used, and then it's recycled back to ash or smoke or back to the earth. I'm going to assume you dump your fire ashes out,
I
right?
actually collect my ashes in
You keep
a.
them. Yeah,
I collect it in a metal. I'll show you.
yeah,
See down there under my chair.
yeah. I see
See
you
that?
save your ash.
Yeah, I save all my ashes, and when I
So
make
when,
black salt, I may use it for black salt.
yeah.
And if I have too much ash, then I'll just put it back to the earth. But I always collect it because I burn
I
I
think
burn a
that
lot of
helps.
sage. I burn
I think that
sage.
helps the new practitioners a lot because they don't even know where to begin with that. Like to bring something in, give thanks for what has been given. Matter of fact, ask the plant for what you want or what you're looking for, and it will maybe direct you to something else as well. And then we incorporate these things little by little and keep notes on that. And
Yeah.
then after you using them, I'm not into burying bottles or non-biodegradable things. So we turn to the earth, throw it in running water, or
Yeah.
burn it in a fire is your is like finishing off or cleansing or the you're finishing closing out that magic and starting a new one.
And
It's
that's this time of the year, because this is, in my opinion,
yeah,
this is the end. And so
the
you want
season.
all things that need to die. This is the time to honor that and to let it go. We're having a very interesting question here. How do you tell if your pet is a familiar? I tell you how I know. Not all your pets are going to want to come where you are when you're doing your practice, when you're
It's
doing
the
ritual.
ones that are right up here. Yeah.
Only the
And the ones
ones that follow you, the ones that follow you in and want to be a part of it and sit and watch and sit and hang out with you. Like, look at this one. She's new to my family. She's a new girl, and I'm starting to see that she might be a familiar because she
That's
likes to
why.
be a part of everything I'm doing. So when you're doing ritual work, when you are setting up your altar and you're doing ritual work, if your animal is always there, that would be a familiar. So not all your animals are familiars.
Some are in and out, but you can tell the ones. Yes,
Hmm.
they know that. I'm just looking at the ashes. I only use ashes that were not part of the spell. Those I return to the wind. That I like that. Yep. See, they
Yeah,
got their rhythm going.
that's right. And these are the little things that make you the kind of witch you are and
What's
makes
a
you
good
independent.
protection? This is what's a good protection for someone that's barely starting in witchcraft.
Quartz crystal, pentagrams. I wear both quartz crystal and pentagrams. What do you want to say, Shelby? I know you got something to say.
I'm thinking it depends on what level of protection and what you want to protect here. So, and I create, I don't know what they're called. It might be a store. I create dragons in my hand, and I have a blue one and a red one and an earth and a fire, and they're cute, and I wake them up and I conjure them in my hand and I put them around my house when I leave to take care of my dog. And there's one that I like make it up. I've done it forever that I see them and they're with me now. So that's it. Conjure these little beings. There's different names for doing this, so I hesitate to use them because everyone has their opinions on these things.
Are you
Um,
talking servitor?
I think servitor would be their most appropriate name for it, right? Creating
Yeah,
an energy being.
yeah.
And there's another one that rides on top of my car. But anyway, the if you're going to protect your home, use some type of a circle or perimeter or four corner situation with quartz, like Tamara said. If you're going to protect your body, you can cleanse, charge, and use jewelry and the blacks. And I like bloodstone these days for kind of does a bunch of things for me at once. Um, what's another one for protecting my blade?
Perfect. Sigils are perfect. And the best place to put them, honestly, is under your mat at your front door. Or or you can even, etch them into the driveway or etch them into the gravel as you're coming in, like do it nice and hard with a stick. There's so many ways. You can put protection.
How do you create your sigils? You have some new, I can tell that you have some new ones in the group. Like, how do you make yours? Because it's a subconscious, you're making something that only you recognize, right?
I actually saw some really good YouTube creations of sigils to help people figure out how to do them. It's really quite easy. It
Yep.
really is. You just don't use your AEIOUs. Don't use those. Use your When you have consonants, you take out only use one. Um, and I think, like, I've seen so many different sigils. I can make a couple of different ones for myself, and I'm sure you can too.
I make them too. So, all right. So, well, let's make this easy. Here, I brought, what would it be? I'm abundant in all ways. Write out that sentence, cross out all the vowels, cross out all the repeating letters until you minimize it down to a few letters. Then I draw a circle and I write these letters inside, but I kind of overcross them and things like that. I do different gel pens. I might use dragon's blood ink or something like that. So eventually you have this circle with the letters in there all different ways. And then, like you said, put them you can stick
Make
them
them,
in your car, you can
yeah,
engrave them in the ground, draw them in the ground, but you know what it is. You
yeah,
created it. And when your subconscious picks it up at a glance, even if you're not really paying attention to it, your magic.
yeah.
That's
What do you,
that's my easy one. I'm a lazy one, little witch. Let me tell you. I'm gonna make it. What it should be like.
yeah.
I'm gonna put a lot of time into this thing, but I typically use that type of thing more to reprogram my thinking and get it back on track than I do for protection. Protection, I might make more like an amulet for the door, or
Yeah,
which is good right now. Apples are great for that right now. You can dry them and hang them, and pumpkins. You can
yeah. Yep.
Charge
And
that
actually,
pumpkin.
that's the whole reason for the jack-o'-lantern.
Hmm.
The reason why we made those faces on the jack-o'-lantern and put them a light in them at the front of our house is to keep negative, demonic type spirits from coming into our space, so that we would have scared them away in our own little way. That's what was the reason for the jack-o'-lantern back in the day.
I love I got my pumpkins today because I didn't have a garden this year. I got one
Yeah.
for the baby too. Yes.
I
So
don't know how to make a runic sigil. I've never made one. So somebody asked that.
I would have to read that over again. We had to do that in like witch school. Yes. Yes. So there's the different runes, and the runes represent letters. And
Yes.
you can actually do that. There's a whole lot of witches alphabets too, and you can
Yeah.
make them that way too. There's no limit here. My way is certainly not the only way. My way is like the quickest quickest way for me to make them. That's all that is. But the runes are,
I
an
think
alphabet.
there's some other simple things too, like putting rosemary plants at the front door. There's so many ways. I wouldn't stop with one way though. I mean, as you learn them, put them all there. Put all the little things that you've learned around, and maybe you could start in your book of shadows. You can write down all the things that you used for protection. Scott Cunningham has a really good book. An encyclopedia of herbal magics. And he writes in there all the different ways that you can use many, many, many herbs. Witches' bells, yes, and witches' balls. Absolutely. Good, good. And
Yeah, the
keys,
ball, the
and
ball
keys,
key.
and keys. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's so many. There's so many ways.
So,
In fact, we should probably have some sort of gathering of all the different things. If I could sit down and think about all the things that we would use for protection. But it's not just protection you want. You also, if you're not careful, and this is what I found about protecting yourself, you protect yourself too much. You are
yeah,
also protecting yourself from experience.
yeah. We have to have balance. We're here
Yeah.
to have a human experience. Yes, we
Yeah.
are.
The other thing is, putting a broom, pentagram. Like at my store, I have a broom upside down on the gate. When I open the gate, you cannot see the broom. But when the gate is closed, it keeps unwanted people or energies from coming into that space. But when I open the gate, you don't see it. So it doesn't stop anyone from coming. I also have
They're,
a,
yeah, they're
uh,
getting a lot of information here because and we know some of this, a lot of this is tradition, but you're putting your own spin on it, and
oh, yeah.
you're setting that ward because you
Yeah.
are the magic, right? Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
I love yeah.
allow me,
The upside down broom means that nothing can enter too.
yes, sorry. I guess you see, it's right. You're right, Shelby. We forget um,
I
how
mean,
much.
we're talking think where we think is basic in general, but this is what they don't. This
Yeah.
isn't what they're getting. Hmm.
Um, yes, spheres and witches' ladders. Yes, that's
Yeah,
another good one. Um,
yeah,
so much. There's so many things. Another good thing that I like. I have a lot of people who deal with some negativities, and so I give them simple ways of managing, like cascarella, black salt. These types of things you can put in a pentagram formation on the ground underneath your mat as you're coming in the door. You can put it under your bed. As a matter of fact, you can take a red marker and put a red pentagram and with a circle, with the star and the circle, and put it under your bed. And that'll keep negativity from bothering you when you're sleeping. There's, like you said, where do you want to use the protection? What is the purpose? What are you thinking? And so on. So, yeah.
what is the object? What does the object mean to you? What have you learned about it and in your research that it you've heard? How does it feel? And then what are you going to do with it? Yes, yes,
Yeah. So there's lots of, like, this room I'm sitting in has so much protection in it. It's incredible. If there was
yes.
ever going on outside, I would just
Wouldn't
come in.
know.
I would just come in here and sit. I would, because there's nothing going to get me in this room. Nothing would dare to come into this room. I mean,
And
there's so
some of the TikTok things about every first of the month, cleanse your house and cleanse. This is a good practice, but don't feel like these things are necessary. You know when you need to redo or
Yeah,
change up. I tend to be seasonal and kind of decorative,
yeah.
but you know when you need to clean it off and do something else. It's, you know,
I'm totally
well,
seasonal as well. And just so you know, there's a question. What was the question here? Can you repeat the thing about the bed? Oh, simply, if you're having a lot of bad dreams, and I use dream catchers as well, but you can, let's say you have a child who has a lot of bad dreams, just take a piece of paper and in red, make a pentagram and put it under the bed. And that helps. And in fact, if the child makes it themselves, they'll feel even more protected. Like think about all the children's bed covers. I mean, the Ninja Turtles and what else? Power Rangers and all of those types of things. And what was that one? There's so
I
many,
don't want to send them in that often. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the comments. I don't want to sweep it that often either.
right?
Uh,
And
and also those are corporations that are on those images. So these kids have
well,
been bombarded.
but I want to get
Uh,
to the point for a second. The reason why it all came out is to make the child feel as if they were protected, because they were Power Rangers, come on, or all of these different types of things like this were for children to help them feel more
oh, go
comfortable.
Power. I
So,
had two Power Rangers. I think one of my kids is a Power Ranger every year. Yeah, they. So how to ward the bed? Is that what we're talking about right now? Or
well, well, yeah, we're just talking for a second in regards to the children that our children. Many times we deal with our children afraid to go to sleep. What do you? I put a crystal ball and a pyramid beside my son's bed. I didn't use Power Rangers, but he's been raised as you were, as a witch child, right? Yeah.
I think
So,
neat that
so just
that-
somebody said how to protect a person from black magic. What is black magic?
so how to protect another, not yourself, or it's two
How to
separate
protect
things.
black magic? I guess the first thing is, what is black magic? What do you think that is? Is that like a black person? I'll tell you a little story that I learned from Eden McCoy. Eden McCoy. I'm going to show you a really cool book if you can get it. Oh, this is really old. I mean, the new one is a very different cover, but I want to share something that she says, and I just think it's beautiful. And I didn't know about it until she taught me. And so, an old Celtic custom. You'll love it. I'm going to read it. The paragraph states that one will have good luck all year round if a dark skinned visitor is the first caller of the new year. So on November 1st, you got to
Yeah,
get your dark to call you. That was probably one of the earliest attempts at reverse psychology on record. It was hoped that any ill meaning spirits coming toward a house would see a dark presence upon it and not want to bother it any further. The fair skinned Celts also believed that dark skinned individuals were gifted with special occult powers. As Samhain marked the beginning of the new year, it was a certainty that on November 1st, the darkest people in town would be paraded around the countryside to fool the baneful spirits and perhaps to divine their host family's future.
that's beautiful, actually. So before things changed, right? You can see why they were manipulated in the opposite direction, can't you? There's so much power there.
Yeah. I
So much
think
power there.
people are speaking of black magic and baneful magic as the same thing. I would think that's what we're talking about. And what is baneful magic really is, some witches don't want anything to do with baneful magic. And as Shelby pointed out earlier, sometimes we may need to be more conscious of the community that's around us. What if you're dealing with some pretty dark people? And if you're dealing with dark people, then, dark needs dark to align, to put it in place. And that would be baneful magic or black magic, as someone pointed out. And I want to point out one other thing before we even go off kilter here. Most people will not do black magic or baneful magic against you. You would have to be important to some degree. And also, to that witch, you would have to be someone they may think has some authority or power over them. So, most witches are not going to do black magic against others because you would have to be important enough for them to do it. And most witches do not feel as if there are others above them. That's my opinion on that.
I was taught that well, the dark path is something different. It's just something different than, and I was raised on the Wiccan path. And so when they went through the tiers of initiation, you first, go through the year and the day, and then you go through like your awakening or your enlightenment phase of it, and then you do a year. Third degree was all pretty much light magic and rituals, or what you'd consider the light path, and the wheel of the year. And then that last one was what we often would call shadow work. Or, we all have the dark self.
Yeah.
And I've stepped into that this year, and I'm not practicing dark magic, but we still had things that I had to bring up, overcome, and actually harness so that the results in my life weren't so dark, those repetitious things and things like that. And back to it, we talked earlier about the satanic panic in the 70s, because we're seeing an increase in spirituality now, and we're also seeing a world dynamic that we had then as well. And this, a lot of the similar changes. Matter of fact, the current events of today look so much like they did when I was a small child in the 70s. It's almost like a repeat of a bad movie, like a bad remake. But they're throwing these dark terms around, or satanic workers, or we're hearing these things come out. And then of course there's certain other spiritual practices or religions that find us evil, and that falls under that term, dark magic. And really, when we bring this into the light, like you and I right now, we're putting light on it so that it's not so secret, because
Yeah.
that's really what it is. They don't have the understanding that it's secret.
Yeah.
We all have both polarities within us, and when you get to High Priestess, you have demonstrated and walked in a balanced path of your light and your dark. That's how I learned it.
Yeah.
So completely different than, say, someone that's maybe worshiping the infernals or a satanic practice, or which I have zero understanding of. Matter of fact, the
Yeah.
more I learn about it, it really isn't the same. It isn't what I had interpreted it to be either.
No.
So as far as someone casting a spell on you to harm you, is what I'm assuming this question means. How do I protect myself from someone's dark magic? So somebody's aimed an evil eye at you, or a hex, or which yeah, I never quite
I
remember.
put a mirror. I'll tell you what I do. I put a mirror
Yeah, I
on
use a
my
mirror to work.
altar. I put a mirror on my altar, and I have that on my altar at all times. And so for me, that is, um, if you cast out against me on any level, no matter who you are, the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to hit that magic and it's going to come back at you. So that's the first thing I do. As far as ritualizing that baneful magic, but I have always got my protection in place.
Yeah.
My protection is always
If I
in
suspect
place.
if I suspect that someone's throwing something at me like that, which I check first anyways. I create a vacuum in a bottle and I collect it. I just drain the sender dry. They don't get anything back. I'll use it later for whatever I choose. Free energy.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So it's neutralized. It can't get through the wards anyways, but I will set out a bottle and created a vacuum in it, typically with an incense stick with the smoke.
Oh, to
And then
draw
once
the
I
energy
put it
into it.
yes, and so it gets caught in the bottle. It can't get out, and then now it's mine. I drain
Oh,
them.
I love,
That, that, that
I
that's
love
how
that.
I
I love that. I love that.
I take it. I'm an energy worker, so it's free energy. You're gonna fire something that powerful at me, you think, well, it's mine now. Thank you very much. That's
Yeah,
me.
that's absolutely a good idea, Shelby. I love that.
I
And
probably
then you
should
get,
read that one. Yeah, I
that's a
have that one.
really good one. In fact, I'm going to do that. I'm going to put that bottle on my mirror.
Any evil manipulation spoken in my name. I should read some of these. Yeah,
Yes, go ahead, read one.
into the bottle. They is where they came. So I'll have to. I would have to go. Want me to go get it? Okay, let me go get it.
Sure.
Hold on, I'll be right back. And tiny camper, everything's gonna fall over. Okay.
Just so you know, everyone, my dear friend here is putting together a book, which will likely be over 200 pages. She's also putting together some teachings on this type of thing that we're talking about, that you'll be able to go to her, what's it called? Gum thing, or sort of like a
Gumroad.
gum, what's it called? Gumroad. That's it. Gumroad. And you'll be able to go to that and join for a monthly fee. It's very inexpensive.
Yeah,
And
we're gonna make it
learn
very
her.
affordable, but people got to put
Yeah.
skin in the game.
Yeah, you'll be able to learn her work. And then hopefully when she gets her book done, we could be showing and sharing her things here on TikTok.
Let's see here.
I love
I
Shelby
never,
too.
I never would have imagined that I'd be doing this. So I've been transcribing all of these TikToks into text, and that's been quite an undertaking when I realized exactly how much I'd written there. Take me a second to find it. We are looking for here it is. Actually, I'm probably gonna, oh, maybe I should just turn it up. Yeah,
I
hold
summon
on.
them all right now.
So it's on
Any magic.
whoops. Oh, gee whiz, I'm a klutz today. I am spent. I needed to rest. Quitting the job was not enough. I'm gonna need a few days.
Manipulations in my name. Any magical
Okay, here we go.
manipulations in
Listen
my
up, everyone.
name. I summon them all right now from where they came. Right into this unearthed bottle here.
Unearthed bottle here.
Goes all dark magic.
Goes all dark magic.
Far or near.
From far or near.
And now that power is all mine. Draining the senders in overtime.
Draining the senders in overtime.
I bind this spell to guarantee that no harm shall ever come to me.
I'll repost that one actually. So
That's a good one.
yeah, and so we did. I don't know. I can't show the other thing, but I did the bottle and I showed how to do it. But I make those
I
up.
think I see.
I didn't learn it anywhere. As you walk in this path, further and further and further, and then we learn more. And then I became an energy worker and a Reiki master, and I learned how to move energy. I was like, well, geez, why send it back to them so they can take another swing at me?
Yeah.
Just leave them exhausted. No. There's offense,
Yeah.
defense. Energy doesn't like they're not vanquishing it, so I'm gonna take it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, you know what? I really appreciate you sharing that. And everyone who is here, we have 40 people in the room. And that has been a consistent through the whole time we've been talking, by the way, Shelby, if you didn't notice, anywhere between 35 and 40 people. So we have 35 or 40 witches right now paying attention to the ways of the old ways with us. And I have to go though, because my mom is waiting for turkey dinner. And because I waited, I did not want to have turkey dinner during the time that was being honored for Thanksgiving. So we're
Is it Canadian Thanksgiving on Columbus? Well, what Indigenous Day? I don't
waiting
even
and we're
know
going to have,
our
yeah,
Thanksgiving is last Thursday, but we all
yeah,
know that's a farce.
we,
That we all know that's not true. So we have to
we,
reframe that. Yeah,
yeah,
I love you
yeah.
so much, and thank you all so much for having me. This has been fun. All right, I'm gonna run along. Mwah. Brightest blessings to you all, and remember, you are the magic. Okay, not the props, and
Shelby?
certainly
Yes.
not
Thank you,
somebody else's
girlfriend.
structure. Bye.
Yes. Bye, honey. See you soon. Take good care, Shelby. Thanks for joining us. So for all of you, whoops, let's see, can I get that? Can I get out of that? I just want to say good night to everyone, and blessed be, yes, you are the magic. Don't forget it. And see you all again soon. And don't forget, if you're interested in joining the White Wolf Coven for the winter sessions, please go to my website at Tamare, Tamare, whitewolf.com. Go to the witchcraft workshop area and register, and you'll be with us. We'll be doing lots of wonderful things.